Today I'm going to talk to you about another strategy that you can use to make sure that your subject agrees with your verb. Then I'm going to introduce to you two little problems we have in the English language so that you can make sure not to fall into their traps. The first technique is what I call the cut the crap technique. I also like to call it subject-verb smush, so you can choose whichever term helps you remember it. The idea behind this technique is that in English we often put a whole bunch of extra words between our subject and the verb. And sometimes one of those words that we put in there wants us to think that it's the subject of the verb, and it can cause us to make a mistake with subject-verb agreement. Usually the words that we put between subjects and verbs tend to be in prepositional phrases. Remember that a preposition is usually a little word. There are a couple of longer ones, but they tend to be very short, and they show the relationship between two things. So I could say, the coffee is on the table, the coffee is under the table, right? And in both cases, I'm showing you the relationship between the coffee and the table, on, under. I could pass the coffee around the table to give to somebody else, right? Around is showing, again, the relationship between the coffee and the table. So in order to do this technique, you do need to be able to identify prepositions. Let me show you how it works. The professor in the classroom on the right teaches grammar. So in this case, if I recognize that in is a preposition, I would want to then figure out what the prepositional phrase is. And the way to do that is to attach the question what to the preposition. So I could say in what? And the answer is in the classroom. So in the classroom, therefore, is a prepositional phrase, and that means I can cross it off. On is another preposition, like the coffee's on the table, right? On, you would say on what? On the right is the answer to that question, so I can cross it off. And now I can smush my subject right up against the verb. The professor teaches. Professor is singular. Singular verbs take S, so this is a correct singular verb to go with the subject professor. The taxes on his car are high because he lives in the city. So here's another on, and I would say on what? On his car. So I can cross that off. I see another one over here, in. In what? In the city. Out it goes. So now I have the taxes on his car are high because he lives. Notice that if I hadn't crossed this off, I might think that the subject is the word car and say car is, but that would be wrong because the subject is the word taxes, because the subject cannot be inside of a prepositional phrase. Taxes is plural, therefore we use the plural form of the verb to be, which is are. Here's another one. Accepting responsibility for excuses makes a person more credible. For is a preposition, so I say for what? For excuses. Out it goes. Now I hope you remember that accepting is a gerund, and that a gerund can be the subject of a sentence. So remember that if you want to make a sentence be about a verb, you have to turn the verb into a noun. And you do that by adding ing to the verb, and that makes it into a noun. A gerund is always singular. So if accepting is the subject, makes is the correct verb. Notice again, if you've been tempted by excuses, you might have written make, and that would have been incorrect. The restaurant behind my house on the right near the bushes is fabulous. Oh, we have 3 prepositional phrases in here. Behind, that's one of those longer ones. Behind what? Behind my house. Out it goes. On what? On the right. Out it goes. Near what? Near the bushes. Out it goes. Now I have the restaurant is. See that? Subject, verb, smush. Notice again that bushes might have tempted me, okay? So keep this in mind when you're working on subject-verb agreement. Do not be tempted by picking a word that comes right before the verb if it's inside of a prepositional phrase, because it will not be the subject of the verb. Okay, here's our situation. If you followed my rules in this one circumstance, you would see a problem. If I have a lot of ketchup blank on the table, I could cross off of ketchup and cross off on the table, and it would be a lot is. A lot of ketchup is on the table, right? But what if I said a lot of French fries? I crossed it off, but what if I said a lot of French fries? It would be are on the table. And that means that grammatically, a lot can be singular a lot of ketchup is on the table. Or plural, a lot of French fries are on the table. And this is a grammatical emergency because a word cannot be both singular and plural at the same time. So this is a situation that we call count versus non-count. And what that means is that the thing we're talking about is either something you can count or something you cannot count. Imagine that I came to your house and I took a big container of ketchup and I squirted into a splat on your kitchen table. And then I said to you, count that ketchup. You would say, I can't, it's a splat of ketchup, right? You cannot count ketchup, but you could count French fries. What if I came to your house and I had a fistful of French fries and I dropped them on the table and said, count them? You would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many French fries you have. So in other words, ketchup is something you cannot count. French fries are something you can. Now let me point something else out. If you thought about the ketchup on my table, you would think of one splat, right? And in fact, things that you cannot count, ketchup, love, peace, it's always singular, right? Things that you can count, French fries, kisses, rainbows, right? They're always plural because you can't count one thing, right? It's always going to be French fries. It wouldn't be a lot of French fry, right? That makes no sense. So that also helps you understand the special circumstance when this comes into play, okay? Here are the phrases that put you into count, non-count territory, right? Any of the French fries are on the table. Any of the ketchup is on the table. Plenty of French fries are on the table. Plenty of ketchup is on the table. See that situation? But all of these phrases have to do with a certain proportion of a whole, which is why I made this little pie chart here, right? A lot of the pie chart would maybe be like this much of it. All of it, even though it's all of it, is still all of the thing that you're measuring, right? Any of could be this one, the orange one, or the red one, or the yellow one. Enough of, I don't know, maybe that's the green, maybe that's enough of this pie. Or most of could maybe be the orange plus the red plus the yellow plus the green, or plenty. Maybe you don't need a lot. Maybe you'd say just this dark blue is plenty of the pie. Some of, I don't know, the orange, some of the pie, right? So you're only going to have to deal with count, non-count when you're dealing with a fraction of a whole, even a whole fraction of a whole, as is the case in all of, okay? Let me show you what this looks like. A lot of glue. Can you count glue? No, so it's always singular. And in fact, the word glue is singular. A lot of glue spills. But a lot of sprinkles, you can count them, so it's plural, spill. Enough of the smell, can't count that, spreads, singular. Enough of the flies, can count them, spread. Plenty of sand. Now, okay, you might say to me, technically you could count the sand. And I would say back to you, but can you? Can you really count all the sand? No. So we think of sand as singular. We think of rice as singular too, but mostly this is an exception to the rule, right? Plenty of sand, cannot count, it is impossible, is in my shoes. Plenty of shoes, we can count. Plenty of shoes are full of sand. In other words, in this one case, the verb agrees with what is inside of the prepositional phrase. Conveniently also, you'll see that in these sorts of situations, the subject of the verb that's inside the prepositional phrase will be right next to the verb. See that? See how all of these subjects are right next to the verb? So this is that situation where if you're a native speaker, it will sound right to do this correctly. I'm going to stop here and put the last piece of information in another video because this is really enough for you. So I hope that this hasn't been too confusing or too annoying. Bring any questions you have to class, and I look forward to talking about it with you.